What's up everyone, I'm Twisted. The final lore piece of the first season of 2025 is finally out. I'm already working on a video where I'll go over all the lore we got in this season, but before that, let's go over this brand new cinematic titled A Dark Gambit. We are going to check out all of the lore details, how this cinematic fits in the timeline, and even some teasers for the next season, so make sure you watch this video until the end. This cinematic takes place in this wide chamber we've seen before, first in the season cinematic, then in LeBlanc's own cinematic, then in the Demon's Hand game, and it was also mentioned in LeBlanc's new story. We see the helmet of Atakhan and both LeBlanc and Vladimir behind it. As we'll see, this is a follow-up to the comic we saw at the end of the Demon's Hand game. There, LeBlanc was finally able to force Atakhan to reveal the location of the Darkin weapon. This weapon was first teased in the season cinematic and later confirmed to be a glaive on social media. It's impossible to say how much time passed between the season cinematic and this one. This could be right after, if the scene of LeBlanc summoning Atakhan happened before the season cinematic, or this could be some time later, with that scene being between both cinematics. This would explain why Vladimir appears to enter the chamber again in the ending of the game, but that could just be because he was hiding while LeBlanc deceived Atakhan, or he simply left while she did that and then came back. The weak tether long forgotten could be referencing the Darkin spirit being bound to their weapon, or this could be referring to something else I'll mention in a second. We see Atakhan drawing on a wall. Notice how parts of his body look like human flesh. This makes sense since Atakhan became an amalgamation of demon and human after being bound to Katashli. We then see some pink leaves or petals and a drawing of the Darkin weapon. This time the complete drawing, as previously we had only seen the blade part. It does look more like a glaive now. Atakhan drawing the weapon and its location was also seen in the Demon's Hand game.
The first lands.
And yep, after the drawing from the game, everyone was right in assuming that Ionia was going to be explored next. The petals are likely a big teaser to the aesthetic we'll see in the map and skins of the next season, which also matches the thumbnail we just got for the next season cinematic. And yes, this could mean more Spirit Blossom skins, but I think we got too many of those already.
Ionia is but a doorway.
Yes, come claim your prize in my world.
Ionia is but a doorway implies that the weapon LeBlanc seeks isn't actually in Ionia. In the following line, we learn that her prize is in Atakhan's world, and since Atakhan is a demon, this means that they are likely talking about the Spirit Realm, which explains why the Spirit Realm was mentioned so many times in the Demon's Hand game. This would also make sense as Ionia has a strong connection to this realm. Now, all of this likely means that the Darkin Glaive is hidden inside the Spirit Realm. I've said before how the glaive being in Ionia would make it the third Darkin weapon there after Varus and Xolaani, but if instead of Ionia the glaive is hidden in the Spirit Realm, then this is actually the third Darkin weapon hidden there after Pra and Balkux. Still, if this is the case, why would Atakhan point to Ionia in specific? Perhaps the weapon is hidden in a specific part of the Spirit Realm, more easily accessed through somewhere in Ionia? Or maybe I'm just overthinking this and Ionia is just a place on the mortal realm with the easiest access to the Spirit Realm. I wanna shout out this reply I got from someone saying that the first act will focus on Ionia and the second one on the Spirit Realm. I think that's a very cool idea and I'll come back to it in a second. As I mentioned, in Atakhan's game we got a couple mentions of the Spirit Realm, in specific that Atakhan was hiding there after Sanuzal's death. Since Atakhan will stay as an epic monster, I wonder if the demon will also be relevant in the next season. Perhaps LeBlanc is going to use it to reach the weapon, as Atakhan being a demon means it can easily cross to the other realm. Also, just a reminder, demons and Darkin are completely different things. Demons are spirits that feed on negative emotions, Darkin are Shuriman Ascended who used blood magic and were imprisoned inside their own weapons.
Listen to your puppet, LeBlanc. Besides, you have no host.
I've seen people say that Vladimir is talking about a war host here, one that LeBlanc no longer has access to after the death of Darkwill. Timeline-wise, this makes sense, as Vlad is about to talk about the new Grand General, Swain. This cinematic takes place after the season cinematic, and if we assume that all the moments from LeBlanc's story were happening at the same time, then when Darius was recovering from his fight with Trundle, Swain had already killed Darkwill and the Noxians were already retreating from Ionia. Also, a reminder that all of this is taking place in the past, almost a decade before for the quote-unquote present day. However, we are also talking about the Darkin here, so this could be about an actual host for the weapon. In fact, if we check the cinematic in other languages, for example in the Brazilian and Latin American channels, we can see that the words used for host only make sense if they are talking about the host for the weapon. But if we check for example in German, instead of host they actually use the word army. Someone definitely did an oopsie when translating the cinematic. But we'll come back to this in a second.
And even if you did, the new Grand General would never approve another campaign in Ionia.
The fact that Vladimir says that Swain wouldn't want to invade Ionia again is funny considering that we already have stories that hint that a second invasion is coming, and we also have Swain's and Aurelius cards from Legends of Runeterra, and we also have the Awakened cinematic, which, yeah, maybe these aren't fully canon, but still, I think Vlad is just trying to sway LeBlanc from the idea of using a Darkin weapon, because he himself was once a slave to a Darkin. That's how he got his blood powers, in case you didn't know.
Ionia.
I have done your bidding. Release me.
In the Demon's Hand game, LeBlanc promised the demon its freedom if it revealed the location of the Darkin weapon. But well, why would the deceiver ever keep her promises, right? I have no idea what she whispered to the demon, but it made it very angry. It was probably something like, "You'll never be free," or maybe she said that she'll use it to get the weapon. Let me know down below what you think she told it. Here she is speaking to the helmet because that's the object to which Atakhan was bounded to. And now a moment to appreciate Vladimir getting out of the way of Atakhan, and here we can see a halo forming around the demon. Then we see LeBlanc's red chains once again. The first time we did was in Arcane. The way she holds the demon in place is just like how she did at the end of the Demon's Hand game.
Losing our host was an unfortunate turn.
Now, LeBlanc says that they lost their host. And again, I'm not quite sure if they are talking about a host for the weapon or a war host, an army. I wrote a whole section here about who the previous host for the Darkin was, and I was even going to talk about how it could be a teaser for the Noxian show, but to be honest there's no point discussing that when Vlad and LeBlanc could just be talking about an army. Anyway, it's very likely that the next champion will be a new host that the Rose managed to find, or someone who got the weapon before them. I'm excited to see that. It's very likely going to be a brand new character. The Darkin, however, now that could be a character we already know. Probably not one from Legends of Runeterra, as we know that this Darkin is a glaive, but it could be one from the Twilight of the Gods story. We don't know the fate of Valeeva nor of Sebotaro, so either of them could be this Darkin Glaive. Going back to the idea of the second act taking place in the Spirit Realm, it's very likely that this new champion is only coming out in the summer. It's been a trend for years now, and the second act of the next season likely starts around June. So in the same way that in this season we went from Noxus to the Black Rose, maybe in the next season we are going to go from Ionia to the Spirit Realm, and maybe when we get there we'll see someone finding the glaive.
As for the might of Noxus, it won't be necessary. A single whisper can cut deeper than 1,000 blades.
Vladimir first spoke about the host, then about the Grand General. LeBlanc then replied by first talking about the host and then about the might of Noxus. So these lines are her answer to what Vladimir said about Swain not wanting another invasion. If by might of Noxus she means Darius, then she's probably saying that despite Swain being a problem when it comes to them returning to Ionia, that they won't use Darius to get there. But it's also possible that the might of Noxus is referring to the Noxian armies. This would make sense as she uses the pronoun it and not he. This would also explain why she mentions 1,000 blades. Also no, I don't think LeBlanc will kickstart another invasion. I think she's literally saying that they don't need a second invasion to get the weapon.
To Ionia then.
And I love this reply from Vlad. He's so done with LeBlanc's schemes, but he's probably too afraid to say no. And while her using a Darkin weapon certainly isn't helping either. And so the cinematic ends, and whoa, I had a lot to say about something that's not even 2 minutes long. As I said, I'm working on a video about all the lore we got in this season, and well, the next one is right around the corner, so there's going to be a lot to talk about as well. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss anything. It's free and you can always change your mind later. I'm trying to reach 5k subs this year, so your help would be very much appreciated. I'm Twisted and I'll see you guys in the next video.